I'm like, women have been doing this since the beginning of time. We've got this. I think it's more the pressure from other people. I was quite happy to give birth here, and when they say morning sickness, it's a lie.
It starts only in the morning.
Day.
It's all day. Yeah.
Welcome to Tiny Tales, where we explore the unique experience that giving birth is to every woman. We will hear the personal tales of women in Ghana who will take us on their journeys
To motherhood, from conception to birth,
to the first 3 months after the baby is born.
This season is sponsored and co-hosted by Gaia Organic.
your plug for fresh, healthy organic food in Jawulu, Accra. Hi, my name is Lisa and I'll be your host. In this episode, I'll be talking to Fran, mother of Nuna, age 1, and the story of returning to the hospital just 48 hours after your baby has been born. Hi, Fran.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us on the couch and telling us your story. We appreciate it. So we want to start with the beginning. So was Nuna planned?
Yes, she was planned. We'd been together for a little while, and that's something that we had talked about for a while and knew that we both wanted a baby. So yeah, we decided to come off of the contraception pill, which I've been on for quite a while. Came off of it, and luckily for me, happened quite quickly.
Happened quite quickly.
Yeah.
So what did you do? So you peed on the stick, and then how did you react?
Just really a sort of surprise, but because of the sickness, knew that was sort of going to be the case, and just went out and told Jack it was we're having a baby.
Yeah.
But then also you don't really believe it, do you? So I think I did about 6.
I read the same, about 10.
Yes.
I was like, really? Is this really?
Yeah, and because they're not. It wasn't one of the big expensive ones and everything, but no, they were all coming out definitely pregnant.
And then take us through the pregnancy. How was it? Did you have the typical nausea and everything in the first trimester, and fatigue and?
Yes, so fatigue. I'm not sure so much fatigue, but definitely the nausea. And I think that was even. Luckily I didn't vomit very much. Maybe sometimes when I was brushing my teeth, when I brushed your teeth or whatever. But yeah, the nausea, and I think that's worse than the sickness.
Yeah,
like actually vomiting, that just constant. And when they say morning sickness, it's a lie.
It starts only in the morning. It's all day.
Yeah. I really enjoyed being pregnant. That first part, and everyone kept saying to me, it's just the first trimester. As soon as 16 weeks that week, I was like, the way I'm feeling, there's no way this is going to end at 16 weeks. But no, 16 weeks on the dot. Pretty much.
Wow.
It's all the nausea stopped, and then from there, that's when I sort of started really enjoying it. And I think I was quite lucky because I was able to walk to work. Yeah. So I think that kept me really active and fit, and I was able to work right up until a couple of weeks before I gave birth.
How did you feel throughout? Was it just happiness, or did you go through any sort of other emotions throughout the pregnancy?
No, it was mostly just happiness. I did a hypnobirthing course. I'd heard quite a bit about that, so both Jack and I sat through and did an online hypnobirthing course, and I think that really helped. That made me feel so much more relaxed. And Jack also had an audio book written by the book's written by Mark Harris, who's a male midwife in the UK. And so he listened to the audiobook, and he actually knew more about the whole process than me. Yeah, that when we were doing the hypnobirthing, he was like, oh yeah, that, and then this happens and that. I'm like, how do you know? But yeah, he was quite invested in knowing quite a lot about it as well, which really helped. The other thing the issue we had was deciding, obviously, where we wanted to give birth, and it was sort of in the middle of COVID, and obviously my family back in the UK wanted me to come back to the UK. But we'd previously applied for a visa for Jack, and he, was denied, and we pretty much knew that it was going to be the same again. So
because Jack is Ghanaian,
so he's Ghanaian. Yeah. So trying to get a visa for the UK is very difficult. Yeah. So, and I knew there's no way I was going to give birth without him being there. So that was sort of my decision made, really.
Yeah.
So I decided to stay here. So that was sort of the only anxious bit, I guess. But
Was the anxious bit from the fact that you were not sure where to give birth, or was it the fact that you were anxious about giving birth in Ghana?
I think it was about the. I think it was more the pressure from other people.
Mm-hmm.
I was quite happy to give birth here. All my antenatal appointments and everything had been fine, had been good, and I was more than happy. I think it was just more the pressure from my family being back in the UK, wanting me to go back. So.
Yeah.
But then I also think it's really important to give birth where you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And Ghana is my home now. I don't really have any interest in going back to the UK to live at the moment. So Ghana's my home. That's where I felt comfortable. So actually, again, giving birth here did seem like it was a better idea than going back to the UK.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So then you're getting closer to your due date. Was Nuna? How close was she born to her? Was she born on her due date? I guess not.
No.
Most babies are
No.
not.
So she was due on the 24th of July, and then she was born on the 30th.
Okay.
So actually 6 days over.
Yeah. How did that feel? How were you for those 6 days?
Well, so yeah, when they say that's the longest, the longest time ever, it's true. But also, I had the issue of, I think most places here they insist on induction. They don't want you to get past 40. They don't want you to reach 42 weeks.
Yeah.
I think so. I was actually booked in for an induction on the 30th. So, so that was sort of my last day. I really didn't want to be induced. It was kind of, again, pressure from the hospital. You're kind of forced into it. They say this is what's going to happen.
Then it just started on its own. So you started feeling the contractions.
Yeah. So as a first-time mum, you're not really sure
what you're feeling.
So on the 29th, so the Thursday before, I started. It was about 6 o'clock in the morning, and I started feeling something, and I was like, is this it? And
so the pain at this point was,
not much. It's kind of it was just sort of, I don't know. It's just, you can't really describe it, can you? It's that sort of slight pain that kind of increases and then decreases, and so I started timing them and seeing, and on it said, you don't need to go to the hospital yet. On the app.
On the app.
Yeah. And then throughout the day it was sort of happening, and then in the middle of the day everything just stopped, and I was fine. I was feeling tired, so I kind of was resting and in and out, but then every now and again I would get sort of one quite big one, and then it would go away, and then it kind of nothing again. So then because we were booked in for the induction on the Friday morning at 4 a.m. 4 a.m. on the Friday morning, because they want to give you like the whole day. We had to go to the hospital the evening before. By then, the pain or the contraction, what I know now were contractions, were increasing. And when we went to the hospital, they asked me, "Oh, you look like you're in a bit of pain." And I was like, a bit. It's coming and going. And they were like, "Okay, let's check." And by then I was 3 centimeters dilated.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't need to be induced. Woohoo! I was very happy.
It's funny with the pain, because I realized also when I was giving birth that the midwives, they told me at some point, just like, they were talking about the pain or something, and I was like, "Is this it?" And they're like, "No." Just the fact that you can even say those words means that this is not the pain level you're going to reach. They're able to sort of tell it's like they're able to tell from your pain level how far along you are. This must be part of their training somehow, I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure.
So then you're in and you're 3 centimeters, and this was in the evening, Thursday evening.
Yes, Thursday evening.
And how did it go from there?
So from there, so initially we were put in a shared room, and unfortunately, the person in the room, it was just 2 beds, but the other person had just given birth. So the AC was off. It was really hot in the room. This baby was there, and then I'm there trying to go through early labor. Really hot. You go through those really hot flushes. So then we got moved into a private room, and from there, sort of everyone kind of just left us, which was really nice, because it just meant that it was Jack and I, and I was able to move around, and sort of be relaxed, and
Yeah.
then that's when the intensity of the contractions started coming, and that's sort of then you know it's really happening, don't you? When the pain increases, you know things are starting.
So then it was like, so
then,
how long did it take for you from the 3 centimeters, and how many hours were you dilating for?
I think it was quite quick, so not that long. So I was hooked up to the monitor, so I could see, you know, you can see the
Contractions.
number going up and
Yeah.
up and up, and that's when I would wake Jack up. Jack, someone's coming, wake up! And he would massage, you know, press the back. So I didn't have any medication. So here, gas and air isn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So then, and then I didn't have an epidural. Again, that was quite funny because, you know, when all through the pregnancy and all through the meetings, no, I don't want I don't want epidural. Don't want, and I'll be fine. And then, yeah, as soon as you're in the room, I need an epidural. Please give me an epidural. And I think they were just humoring me because here, again, in Ghana, you have to pre-book the epidural. You have to pay for it in advance, and obviously the anaesthetist has to be there to give it to you. So they said, "Oh, we'll call the anaesthetist and see what he says." But I think they knew I was so far gone by that point. There was no way he was going to be able to come and even have time to admit it. No, I'm sure. And then part of the hypnobirthing, I had a positive affirmation MP3. So I had the speaker, and again, anytime I could see it coming, I would, Jack, press play and press on my back. So he would press play on that, and it was just things like, you know, you've got this. You're one contraction closer to having your baby.
Did it work?
Know,
Do you feel like it worked?
It really worked.
So you were listening to this, it was on his phone, on the speaker or something, and you were listening to it.
Yeah.
Did you have to listen to those tapes or whatever that was beforehand to get used to it, or do you feel like you could have worked even if you just turned it on for the first time?
I think it would have worked even just for the first time. I did listen to it a few times before, and even I think on the video it said you could get somebody, you know, Jack could have recorded them for me, or you know, somebody close to you. But I just went with the one that was there, and no, it did. It really helped. And that's, you know, that's what I say to anyone now that's giving birth. I'm like, women have been doing this since the beginning of time. We've got this. You know, our bodies are made to do it. So.
Yeah. So then she finally was here, and I guess. How long was the pushing phase for you? Was it a long, or was it?
No, so it wasn't that long, but then I did end up having to have an episiotomy, which there was another woman giving birth in the other room, which we could hear.
Oh, that's not nice to hear.
No. Jack even now says the difference between, like, I wasn't screaming and anything, she was really screaming. So I think two of the midwives were with her, so I ended up having the doctor on call and the midwife with me, and I think it was the midwife that wanted the episiotomy and the doctor, one or the other, I'm not sure which way round it was actually, but one of them wanted to do an episiotomy and the other one said no, let's wait, I think there's room. But by the time I'd been awake since 6 o'clock the previous morning. By that time I was like, I want baby out, because by that time I didn't know if it was a boy or a girl. It was a surprise, so I just wanted baby out. So, and all I can really distinctly remember is Jack saying, "You're cutting too fast. Stop." He was telling the midwife that the cut was too big. So that really made me laugh. He was like, "It's too long."
You couldn't feel anything.
No, they numb it. They put an injection in to numb.
Because I was actually talking to a lady who could feel it.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, luckily I could not. Ooh.
But that helped then.
Yeah, it did. It straight from then. Yeah. Baby was out.
Baby was out.
They probably also forgot that I didn't actually know, so they're kind of filling. I'm like, it's a girl or a boy? I want to know. And so obviously I knew it was a girl. Again, the one thing that really sticks in my mind was I was given. So apparently it's to help contract the uterus to reduce bleeding and all this, but it's called Psychotech, I think. Okay. And I think it can either be inserted as a pessary or you put it in your mouth and you let it sort of dissolve in your mouth. And that was the worst thing I've ever experienced. So it makes...
Why? As in, like
it makes you shiver. So so during the kind of conversation, she was like, "Oh, you might shiver a little bit." a little bit.
Right.
So 45 minutes later, I'm still, my
Really?
teeth are chattering. So I couldn't hold Nuna.
Nuna.
I couldn't. So
And you got this right after. So you,
Yeah.
So you took her. Okay. So they didn't
Yeah.
put you on. They didn't.
I had her for a little while.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I delivered the placenta, and then had Nuna for a little while, and then they gave it to me, and then because they'd given, I started shivering. Yeah, I had to give it, and both Jack and I were really, Jack kept saying, "Is this normal?" The way, yeah, it's normal, it's just a bit of shivering. I'm like, this is not a bit of shivering. I'm really, so that really affected me.
Did it take you a while to sort of process that afterwards?
Yes, it did. And still now I still look back and I'm like, oh, I really wish I hadn't have accepted, but you can't go back in time. So
never heard about that before. I don't think I had anything like that.
Well, and I think the scary thing is I think it's used in abortions. So that's even more, if I'd have, because I wasn't told about it before and, said that this is what would happen.
Yeah.
So.
And you're not going to just pick up your phone and start Googling while you're there to figure out what this is.
Yeah, exactly. So.
With Jack being so prepared from all his studying, do you feel like, or did he tell you afterwards that he felt like that he sort of knew what was going on, or was it because he prepared, or does he feel like it helped?
Oh, I think, it really helped him because, he knew what to expect. And I don't think anything really scared him. He was against the episiotomy as well. He was like, no, there's loads of, there's space, you can do it. But like I said, I was tired. But he definitely, it really helped him knowing and being prepared.
I think preparing is really, really key. I really tried. I had bought books for Freddie, but didn't really read them. But my intention was to get him there as well, and classes and everything. But I think it's not just for the woman. I mean, if you're there with the woman, you should know what's going on.
Definitely.
Be prepared.
And help, and because that, again, in the hypnobirthing, that's what they say is that, your birthing partner is your advocate. They're the one that's going to have to really help with decisions because you are not in a position to be able to, with the episiotomy, yes, I just want her out, please. Yeah. Whereas I think if he could have been a bit stronger maybe with the, no, let's stop, let's wait, let's talk about it. But again, in the moment, everything just takes you, doesn't it?
Yeah. Breastfeeding. Did you get, did the milk start flowing immediately, or what did you experience?
Again, no. I tried, she really struggled to latch on. They used, that was, again, I'd forgotten that. They used a syringe to try, because I've got quite flat nipples. They're not inverted, but they're flat. So they were using a syringe to try and pull my nipple out so that Nuna could latch on. It didn't really happen, but they checked her blood sugar level. That's sort of the gauge on whether they can discharge you or not, is whether the blood sugar level is fine. Mm-hmm. So I didn't get to fully breastfeed in the hospital.
In the hospital, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you took Nuna home.
Yes.
That and what evening. Was that? What was that like? For me, at least, taking Essie home, it was nerve-wracking.
Very nerve-wracking.
Leaving this comfortable place where people know what they're doing, and then they're giving me this baby, and I have no idea what I'm doing. Yeah. And I have to go home and cater for this baby, take care of this baby. I found that really, really a lot.
Yes, it was. It was a lot. We had the day, and Jack's mum and grandma came and visited us during the day at the hospital, so that was nice. And then we had to make the decision whether we were going to stay one more night or be discharged. And because they said, if you want to go home, we were like, let's go home. Why not? Rather than staying an extra day. On hindsight, probably should have. But and I think the funniest thing was when because we don't have a car, we don't drive, so we had to order Uber to come and pick us up. And this Uber turns up literally a dustbin on wheels. It was the most rickety thing. So I'm there with my brand new baby who is not even a day old yet. And the driver comes in and I just look at Jack and I'm like, no, and Jack said to the driver, is your car okay? Is it going to make it? He was like, yeah, it's fine. And I'm like, I have a newborn baby. Is it safe to put my newborn baby in your car? And he went, maybe not. So we cancelled that one and ordered another one. Yeah. So then we got home, and obviously then we're exhausted, totally exhausted from, well, I think I'd been awake for pretty much 24 hours by then, even longer than that. And then obviously the first night she cried the whole night. So again, I didn't get any sleep because she's just, you're rocking, you're standing up, you're trying to, and she did not sleep the whole night from crying, and again trying to breastfeed and not really being able to. She wasn't being able to latch on.
Did you try anything to get her to latch on? Any of those, like those breast shields or anything like that to try and get her to?
No, I didn't have any of that. So I didn't know. I was, Googling how to latch on, how to get them to latch on and that sort of thing. But, she sort of was, and so I thought maybe she's feeding, and so, trying, but it was very hard, very tough.
Yeah.
And I think, again, like I said, if we'd have stayed probably in the hospital a day longer, then hopefully they would have helped, and it would have made it a bit easier.
We think it's easy because it's natural, but it's natural doesn't mean it's easy.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. But then the next day was really nice. She slept. We had a really nice day. She was sleeping quite a bit. Still, trying to breastfeed every now and again.
Was she getting any? Did you do any bottle, or was she getting any milk at this point?
No, none. And other than what I thought she was getting from breastfeeding, but I think looking back now, she wasn't getting anything.
Yeah.
And again, when you're trying to breastfeed, it's really hard to know, isn't it? When
you never know how much they actually get.
No.
Yeah.
So before we left the hospital, they told us that we needed to put alcohol basically on the umbilical cord, but they didn't have any in stock to be able to give us some. So they gave us the cotton wool and said, you need to go to the pharmacy and get the alcohol to put it on. Again, I kind of Googled that, and again, in the UK it's not done. They don't do that. So I was thinking, maybe it's not that important. Probably about 5 o'clock in the evening on the Saturday. So we'd been home that day, and we were just sort of washing her, and I noticed the umbilical cord was a bit yellowish, and thinking that doesn't really look right. But maybe it will be fine. Because of the night before, we tried putting her in the bassinet, and she screamed the whole night. We did lots of research and looked up co-sleeping. So we decided to co-sleep. So we got into bed, and I'd looked at all, how much she should be breastfeeding, and so how you should, if she's sleeping, I should try and wake her to. And it just, trying to wake her was near impossible. So she was alive because she was breathing, and she would move when you were trying to wake her, but she wouldn't wake up enough to be able to latch on. So I would try everything. I was really trying to move her, but she wasn't waking up. So then you sort of go into that sort of panic mode of, if I can't wake her, then she's not feeding. And then the joy of Google comes in, and I'm Googling, infected umbilical cords, and looking at all that, and can see that actually it probably is infected. And so 3 o'clock in the morning, I wake Jack up, we need to go to the hospital. So then we ordered the Uber at 3 o'clock in the morning to take us to the hospital, and we got there, and of course no pediatrician on duty at 3 o'clock in the morning, but a GP, general practitioner, was on, and we saw her. So she asked what the problem was, and I said about the umbilical cord. I didn't really mention the not being able to wake her to feed her, because I thought that was kind of a secondary thing. I thought the umbilical cord was the most important. So they didn't have a bed available. So they asked where we would want to be transferred to. So we told them, and she was in the middle of writing the transfer letter. And she said something in her made her decide to check the blood sugar level.
Okay.
of Nuna, and so she checked and she said it was dangerously low. And I think the scariest thing is she actually told, I think she told Jack, I don't think, and he told me, but she told him that if we'd have actually done the transfer and gone to the other hospital, she might not have even made it to the hospital.
So her blood sugar level was low because of
Not feeding,
because
not getting
feeding.
any meat. Yeah, not
Wow.
getting anything. Yeah.
So what did she do? What did she have to do?
So
The doctor.
then they put her on a glucose. So we had to get a line in again because there was no bed. We were shoved in the corner because obviously then she was like, "We can't transfer you. We'll find you. We have to find you a bed."
Yeah.
So we're kind of in this tiny little room. You know, she's crying. I'm crying because
Yeah.
I'm in panic. You know, panic mode. And there was one nurse who was just incredible. You know, really. You know, she'll be totally fine. You're fine. You know, you're in the good hands. It was, but I was still, very scared. And then obviously from then they advised that we start the formula. And then we were admitted. So they started treating the umbilical cord because it was
So that was infected.
Yeah. They started treating that, and then with the antibiotics, and then obviously also making sure that her blood sugar level was raised and that she was getting enough. So then we're on a strict routine of every 2 hours feeding her the formula, but also in between still trying to breastfeed.
So was that you who wanted to keep?
Yeah.
Why was that so important for you?
I think just again because of what you hear, and you know, I think the benefits also, especially with her having the infection, I thought, you know, all of the antibodies and everything that your breast milk produces, that's sort of why I wanted to try it, even if it was going to be combi feeding, you know, half breast milk, half formula.
And how long were you in the hospital for that?
So we had to stay a week because of the course of the antibiotics. So because they were giving the antibiotics intravenously. Yeah, we had to stay in the week for the whole week.
Yeah. And her blood sugar, it normalized as soon as she started getting the milk.
Yeah, getting the milk. Yeah.
And then with breastfeeding, so that's obviously a journey. So you never, when did you decide, okay, now I'm not gonna breastfeed any longer?
So Nuna sort of decided, well, I think my body and Nuna kind of decided she was not getting enough. Again, my body, I was not producing the amount that I should. So even, you know, I was all the advice of power pumping, you know, feeding on demand, everything. I was really trying, and, you know, putting off giving her a bottle to make sure that she, you know, to latch her on and get her to breastfeed. But just pumping and, you know, pumping for an hour and getting an ounce
must have been
just
frustrating.
Horror, just, you know, really demoralizing. And so and then, you know, Nuna would also get frustrated. She would latch on, and then because nothing was coming, she'd get annoyed. And so that sort of made the decision for me. And because we had the formula and she was happy taking the bottle. And, you know, it was also nice because Jack got to feed her and gave me a break, but also them some bonding time.
I actually think that's the beauty of the bottle, is that some, because with mom, you're just on all the time if you're breastfeeding. It means there's not a lot of room for dad to sort of step in. So it's a good, really bonding experience. And for mom to get some rest, which is also very important. So as a new mom out there, or somebody who's pregnant, is there any advice you can give them based on your own, what have you learned from your experience, and what would you do again or do differently, if there's anything that sticks with you?
Definitely not have the drug after giving birth, that one. Probably you know, take the advice of staying in the hospital that little bit longer, unless you really, and you know, to make sure that you are giving the baby enough to drink. Whether you decide right from the beginning formula, then, you know, that's sort of different. But if you do want to breastfeed, then stay and make sure that you're able to breastfeed. I mean, the one thing I also, other than sort of looking at taking a hypnobirthing course, but I always say to people, don't allow people to tell you their birth stories if they're horror stories.
I can relate to that. I started reading a book while I was pregnant, and this lady who wrote the book had so many fears and concerns that I didn't have. And I actually
And
realized,
put
no,
them
you know
on
what? I don't want to
yeah.
actually read this because then I'm going to start having them
Yeah.
because I hadn't even thought that I was going
Yeah.
to that I had to worry about that. And suddenly I was worrying about that. So I was like, okay, no, I'm actually not going to read this because it's not going to do anything good because I already have my own
Yeah.
worries and fears. I don't need more from
No.
somebody else. Thank you so much, Fran, for sharing with us.
Welcome.
I'm sure there were parts of Fran's story that resonated with you. Perhaps you could see yourself in the struggle with breastfeeding, or perhaps you see yourself in having a pregnancy and a birth that was actually just nice and happy and comfortable, or perhaps it was something completely different. Whatever it is, that's the power of the personal story, that we all relate to it differently. We want to hear your comments and your thoughts, so please leave us a comment below. This show is created and hosted by Tiny Reuses. Thank you so much, Fran, and thank you to all of you listening.